The library
is open. Oh my God, the first gay bar. This is like such a sweet question.
The first gay bar I ever went to still exists, and it's like a trans drag queen bar in Boston called Jacques.
Oh yeah, I don't even have to think twice about it. The first gay bar I went to was called Ain't Nobody's Business.
And it's a bar called Trex. It is still there. 2 X's, Syracuse, New York.
Sadly, the Stud, which is now closed. I went with my partner at the time, and we both cried because it was so beautiful.
It was magical, and then we saw someone like 2 people like having sex in a corner, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. I've made it.
It's called Bulldogs, okay? It's this hole in the wall in downtown Atlanta. It's a very small dance floor, so like you're literally rubbing up on everybody, but it was like one of the first spaces that I saw like Black queer people just unabashed, you know, and unapologetic.
The thing that was most striking to me was walking into a place where everyone would just know that I was gay and into dudes. Like the notion that once I walked through that door, if I looked at a guy, he would know that I was looking at him because I was attracted to him and not just like admiring his shirt or whatever straight guys do. And it was terrifying and liberating at the same time.
I was 16, and it was at Play in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where I'm from. I was so scared. I grew up very religious, Pentecostal church, if you know, you know. And it was a magical experience. I remember just being like, do I fit in here? Do I have the confidence to exist where all of these people are just living their truest form? And at that time, probably not. At that time, I was most definitely insecure. But now, honey, I'm strutting into a gay club.
As somebody who grew up in the church, I feel like queer bars often feel like that spiritual space that you can go and just be free and be free from judgment of all of the folks around you in the ways that we know church services for a lot of folks. For me, the dance floor has always been a spiritual experience. You know, when I'm there, you know, with a couple vodka cranberries going through my system, it is the most freedom I have ever experienced and the most kind of like self-love I've ever experienced. That is the reason why we have to protect our queer spaces and our queer clubs and make sure that they don't disappear, because they are.
In the earlier parts of the 20th century, gay bars were places that people could find each other. Sometimes that was a dangerous journey. Sometimes it involved being in a kind of clandestine environment in a bar. It would often involve the risk of being raided. But throughout the years, it became a reliable place to go, to encounter others who may be like you, or at least who wouldn't judge you for having same-sex feelings. It also became a place for people to express, you know, different modes of gender, different ways of moving through the world. That's why they were policed so heavily.
It was, you know, important to have a place that you can go to and just get to be yourself and not trying to pass as straight, closeted, public-facing life that you might be living, you know, in your day job and maybe with your family.
Queer bars were an outlaw space of resistance. In the 1960s, all of the early queer activism was centered around queer people being denied service. So the sip-in that happened at Julia's Bar, one of the oldest bars in Manhattan, the Black Cat in Los Angeles. These were instances where queer people were being turned away if they announced or revealed that they were queer, and their identities were criminalized. So in order to exist in your community, you had to be underground.
I remember taking pictures of the drag queens in between sets, and you know, I didn't know them, they didn't know me, but they let me take their picture and it was on film. And I remember the police came in and did a bit of a shakedown, like to kind of harass the bartenders as if we were in, you know, the 40s and 50s. It was scary, and one of the drag queens who I was actually like taking photos of at the moment was terrified and said, "I'm a teacher. If I'm caught here, like my career's over."
When I was in my early 20s, I moved to San Francisco, and there was this incredible sort of like queer dyke punk renaissance moment happening in the city. And there were tons of like dyke dance parties at these different bars, and that's how I found everybody, you know? And, you know, maybe there were other ways that we could have found each other, and we did. I mean, there were art events, you know, and there are coffee houses, there's other places. But there's something special about bars. You know, obviously it's the alcohol is the special thing about bars.
I think queer bars have historically played a really, really important part in our culture, for good and bad actually. Obviously, it's wonderful to have a place to meet like-minded people, a place where we can dance and be free and seduce and be seduced. However, putting my addiction hat on for a second, our community is very disproportionately affected by addiction, and I think the fact that we had to come together in queer spaces that involve alcohol and drugs probably hasn't helped us in terms of that fact.
I romanticized the idea of gay bars as a queer teen, and then growing up and realizing like, oh, it's not really like that for me. I don't feel free when I go there. That's my own personal experience. I know a lot of people do still feel good. I just never know where I fit in. I don't like to dance and I don't drink, so.
Like WeHo, as a black, fat, queer person, I don't feel like those spaces are meant for me. And so for me, I've kind of been on the hunt to find places where I feel like I can be my authentic self, because I'm not this muscly cis white jock who is like, you know, dancing on the bars. I'm not. That's just not who I am. And oftentimes, if you're going into West Hollywood, that's all you see, and that's all the people want.
Most of the best gay bars are gone. And to be honest, it's not as fun to go to a gay bar now versus the 90s. It was so much more dangerous and sexy back then. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? More bars, more public spaces are very welcoming of LGBTQ people, so you don't feel like you have to go specifically to a gay bar to feel accepted and safe. So we've worked really hard to get to that, right? But in the process of getting to that, we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot.
We've sort of lost that outlaw spirit of gay bars. I wish that more gay bars, queer bars were mixed. I wish there were more small town queer bars where there aren't a gazillion choices for every niche sense of self or identity, but everybody who is queer or questioning all gather under the same roof to just try to feel safe, happy, listen to some tunes, throw some darts, play some pool, do a little dancing, sing karaoke, whatever it is. I miss that aspect.
Every marginalized community has a place where they come together, where they are able to speak openly, that is sort of like a source of well-being and also strength, like political and social. And for us, that's gay bars. And I think it's very easy for straight people and gay people to dismiss gay bars as frivolous places, as licentious places. And they are, but that doesn't change the fact that so much of what we've done to change the world for our community started there. Started with a bunch of people having a drink, flirting with some other tables, but then talking about what needs to change.
Gay, 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 gay.